Hello everyone, welcome to Sakshi Education. Today in this video we will learn about the next lesson of our polity series, that is Salient Features of Indian Constitution. This video is in continuation with our previous videos where we have discussed how to prepare for Indian polity for all competitive examinations, and as well as we discussed about syllabus of Indian Constitution. So this is the third video in this series. As part of the salient features, what all we will learn and why we need to know about the salient features. Every book has its own uniqueness, likewise Indian Constitution is also having its uniqueness. We need to understand what are those unique features. So the first unique feature is the Indian Constitution is termed as lengthiest written constitution in the world. How can you say this? Lengthiest written constitution. Why it is lengthiest constitution is we have 395 articles, 22 parts with 12 schedules, and we say it as the lengthiest constitution when you compare it with the other constitutions like American Constitution, where it has only 7 articles. Please understand, the whole United States of America just runs by 7 articles, whereas India we have 395 articles. China, the biggest country in Asia, one of the biggest leading economies in the world and the biggest nation in Asia, it runs by 138 articles, whereas India runs by 395 articles. So when you compare our constitution with other countries' constitution, it is clearly evident that Indian Constitution is lengthiest constitution. Now, I also said that Indian Constitution is the lengthiest written constitution. Now, written constitution, how can you say that? The Britishers who ruled India, they don't have any written constitution. Instead, the governance happens through unwritten format. They don't have a proper written structure like Indian Constitution. Whereas American Constitution, which is also a democratic nation, is running by a written constitution, but when you compare, American Constitution is having less number of articles when compared to Indian Constitution. So please understand that Indian Constitution is called as lengthiest and written constitution because Indian Constitution comprises 395 articles when compared to the other nations, and also it is a written constitution, whereas a British country is running by an unwritten constitution. The second feature of Indian Constitution is it is a blend. Indian Constitution is neither rigid nor flexible. You please understand, we have to know that Constitution is not static. Constitution is always dynamic, means it evolves in day-to-day life. Based on the situations, based on the changes in the society, Indian Constitution also changes up. Now, the changes in the Constitution or the changes in the society also should reflect in the Constitution. To reflect that in our Constitution, there is a need for us to amend the Constitution. Now, to amend the Constitution, we need to understand, we have to see 2 cases, either it is flexible or rigid. But Indian Constitution is a blend of both rigid as well as flexible. Please understand, UK, that is British Constitution, is a very flexible constitution. Actually it is not a written constitution, so it's an unwritten constitution. There is no point. We should say it as a flexible constitution. Whereas American Constitution is a very, very rigid constitution. You'll not believe, to do changes or amendments in American Constitution, you nearly require 40 years of time. That's really very, very, very rigid type. Whereas in India, now what about India? Indian Constitution is a blend of rigidity as well as flexibility, in the sense, in some situations, we do amendments to the Constitution by simple majority of the Parliament. In some cases, Parliament requires a special majority to do the changes to the Constitution. In some cases, Parliament need to go with a special majority, as well as it need to make sure that 50% of the states in India should ratify that amendment. Then only you can do the changes. So, how you are going to amend the Constitution is under Article 368. While amending the Constitution under Article 368, you need to understand that we have 2 cases where Parliament can change the Constitution, in some cases with special majority, and in some cases Parliament can amend the Constitution special majority plus 50% ratification of the states. So, which is a combination of both rigidity as well as flexibility. This is the second feature of the Indian Constitution. The third feature of the Indian Constitution, this is very, very, very important. In the first class, I told you that Indian Constitution didn't evolve in a single night or in a day. It evolved in due course of time, means it's a process. Now, from 1947 to 1950, when we got independence, our freedom fighters and our constitutional makers, they made a decision, or they have initiated to come up with our own constitution, because we were dependent on British rules. That is, Government of India Act 1935 was helping us to rule the country even from 1947 to 1950, means till the time we adopt the constitution. Now, while framing up our constitution, or while we were initiating constitution for ourselves, Indian constitutional makers have picked up different points or different features from different constitutions. Like, we have borrowed different features from different constitutions. So, in the slide, in the PPT, you can see what are those different features, but I would like to give you some examples. The major source for Indian constitution we borrowed from is Government of India Act 1935, where we had a concept of governor, where we had a concept of public service commission, right? That's it's called as a major source of Indian constitution, or mother of Indian constitution. The second constitution from where we have adopted, where we have borrowed, is obviously the British constitution, because we were under the British rule for many years. So, obviously the second feature we borrowed is from British constitution. What are all the features we have borrowed from the British constitution is parliamentary form of the government, privileges to the parliamentarians, we have a concept called as bicameralism, and rule of law. The famous topic rule of law is being picked up from the British constitution only, right? And the next constitution from where we have picked up is United States of America constitution, and from United States of America the major concept we have borrowed is Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights are nothing but called as fundamental rights in Indian constitution. Sorry, we have borrowed the concept of what? Bill of Rights from American constitution. We have borrowed independent judiciary. We borrowed the concept of judicial review from United States, and also we have borrowed the concept called as vice president, the concept of vice president from United States of America. Likewise, we borrowed many features. You can see it very clearly with all the features in the slide playing down, and some of the other constitutions we borrowed is from Germany. We have borrowed suspension of fundamental rights during emergencies. From Australia, we borrowed the concept of interstate free trade and commerce, means between states they should have free trade and commerce. From Canada, we have borrowed a concept called as federation with strong center, in the sense we will have both union and as well as states like in India, but the union would be very strong. That concept we have borrowed from Canada. Likewise, we have many features that have been borrowed. You can see in the slide playing next to me, where you will have the complete list of this sources of the Indian constitution. This is the third feature. Now, by seeing all this, that is how many points have been borrowed to make our constitution, Indian constitution is rightly called as ransacking of many constitutions. In the sense is, we picked up many features from different constitutions, and we have formed up our constitution. That is the reason B.R. Ambedkar called it as what? Ransacking of Indian constitution is nothing but ransacking of many constitutions, means borrowed from many constitutions. Okay, and the other feature from where our Indian constitution is we have federal system with unitary, we have federation and as well as unitary. In the sense is, Indian government is divided into central government as well as state government, but please understand that Indian government is neither completely central or union, or neither completely state dominated. In the sense it does exhibit both, it does exhibit both the federal characters as well as unitary characters, which is nothing but called as quasi-federation. You can see in the diagram I explained, means Indian constitution is a blend of both unitary as well as federal characters, which you call it as quasi-federation. Okay. Now, what do you mean by federal character? What do you mean by unitary character? How can you say that Indian constitution is unitary in nature? In topics related to citizenship, we have only single citizenship. You carry only a single passport, right? So, that single passport reflects that Indian constitution or government of India is union in nature in some matters. Now, when you have bicameralism, that is representation of states in Rajya Sabha, or we have both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, The presence of Rajya Sabha in parliament reflects that preference is being given to states as well. So these two explain as that Indian constitution exhibits the features of both federal as well as unitary. You can say it the characteristics of the other characteristics of federal as well as the unitary. So Indian constitution is what? It's neither federal nor unitary. It is a blend of both, which is called as quasi-federation. The next feature, the fourth feature of Indian constitution is we have parliamentary form of government. Parliamentary form of government. What do you mean by parliamentary form of government? See, in the syllabus I explained you that when you need to understand about union and state, you have to understand what are the forms of government. Government forms in democracy, especially related to democratic countries, government form will be either parliamentary form of the government or a presidential form of the government. What do you mean by parliamentary form of government? In parliamentary form of government, the executive is always responsible to the legislature. Who is an executive? As I told you, executive is nothing but president, prime minister, council of ministers. Now, president cannot be responsible to the parliament. Prime minister and council of ministers are always responsible to the legislature. Legislature is nothing but the law-making body. The law-making body in India is parliament. Means our MPs, our council of ministers, including prime minister, are always answerable to the parliament, especially Lok Sabha. Why they are always responsible to the parliament? Because in our constitution we have picked up the feature of parliamentary form of government from the British constitution. British has parliamentary form of government. And the other form of the government is we have presidential form of the government, where head of the government will be the president, but not the prime minister, like in United States of America. Means our PM Modi will shake his hand with only the President of US, that is Donald Trump. So please understand the designations. Prime Minister of India, he is the head of the government, whereas the head of the government in US is the president. Now, in presidential form of the government, the president, the executive is never responsible to legislature. Means he need not give any answer to the legislature in United States of America. Means all his acts are independent of their legislature, that is the Congress. Means the Donald Trump's decisions, policies, everything are not questionable in the Congress. Whereas in India, whatever legislation we do, they are questionable in our parliament. This is the difference, parliamentary form of government and presidential form of government. What is our unique feature is we have a parliamentary form of government where our head of the country is an elected head, that is our president is an elected head, whereas in Britain the head of the country is queen, who is not elected. Instead she is a monarchical, it's a hereditary post. And in parliamentary form of government, executive is always responsible to legislature, which happens both in British as well as in India. The next feature of Indian constitution is we have supremacy of parliament as well as we have supremacy of judiciary. We have both. That's the reason in coming lessons we will see how parliament will make a legislation and how Supreme Court will try to put a check to that legislation, and to Supreme Court's judgment, how Parliament will come up with another amendment. We will see it as part of the disputes between fundamental rights, or the question of declaring supremacy between fundamental rights or DPSP. So please understand, our best feature is we have the supremacy of both Parliament as well as judiciary. The supremacy of Parliament we have picked it up from UK constitution or British constitution, or adopted from UK constitution, and whereas the judiciary or the supremacy of the judiciary we have adopted it from United Nations. So in India we have the blend of both parliamentary supremacy as well as judiciary, which are acting as checks and balances while governing the country, right? This is one of the best feature. We are not declaring that only Parliament is supreme. We are not declaring only judiciary is supreme. We have necessary checks and balances between the three organs of the government, that is Parliament supremacy as well as the judiciary supremacy. Parliamentary supremacy is being picked up from as I told you, it is adopted from UK, and whereas the judiciary supremacy is being picked up from United States. Next, moving on to the next feature, we have fundamental rights. One of the best features of our Indian Constitution is fundamental rights. Why we need to have this fundamental rights? What made us to take up or put a chapter for fundamental rights is, before we getting independence, India was ruled by the British, and we were never given an opportunity to express our views, though it is our soil, though people are, the people are our people, but the government is an alien government or a foreign government which never looked out for what is required for the people. Means people were never given an opportunity to express what they desire, what they want. Even we didn't have a freedom of speech and expression. All these points have been kept in, they were kept in mind or kept in background by the constitutional framers, and that's the reason they have incorporated fundamental rights in our Indian Constitution under Part 3 under Article 12 to 35. What are those fundamental rights is, Article 14 to 18 provides right to equality, 19 to 22 right to freedom, 23 to 24, Article 23 and 24 provides us right against exploitation, Article 25 to 28 ensures religious freedom, and Article 29, 30, Article 29 and 30 provides rights to minorities in India, and Article 31, which was their right to property, was repealed, and the last one is Article 32, which provides us for constitutional remedies in the name of writs are being incorporated under fundamental rights, Article 12 to 35 under Part 3. What is the purpose of this fundamental rights is, as I discussed what was the purpose, why we need this is what it ensures. It ensures growth of individual. So, if you see the fundamental rights, you can see it is being aimed for each and every individual in the country, means it looks out for an individual growth, it looks out for political democracy, and it looks out for the development of an individual. The best feature of fundamental rights in India is these are enforceable by the courts, in the sense you can approach the High Court or Supreme Court if your fundamental rights are violated. How you can say our fundamental rights are violated? Article 12, as I told you, Article 12 to 35 reads out fundamental rights, but I mentioned the real fundamental right starts from Article 14. Now, what is Article 12? Definition of state. Article 13, very important, which states that any parliament law violative of fundamental rights can be declared void and null. In the sense is, if government is making any legislation and if such legislation is violating your fundamental rights or is in conflict with your fundamental rights, then obviously you can approach the judiciary, and the best part is the judiciary is having the right to declare such legislations as void and null. Means the courts in India have the power to say or to strike down those legislations, means those legislations will no longer be functional if they are hurting your fundamental rights. Now, this particular concept is called as justiciable by courts, enforceable by courts. You have the power to approach the courts. This is which is a very unique feature in the world given, and especially we are fortunate enough to have our fundamental rights which are being enforceable by the judiciary. And that is the reason Supreme Court is not only called as guardian of the Constitution, it is also called as guardian for enforcing fundamental rights in India. Anything, any legislation, whatever law, if it hurts, it can be a state law, it can be a parliament law, it can be a government order, it can be a any convention. If they are hurting, if they are violating your fundamental rights, we have the power to approach the judiciary, and judiciary is having the power to declare such legislations as unconstitutional. Okay, this is that's the reason fundamental rights are called as soul of the Indian Constitution. They are like very important, means the whole Constitution is one side and the fundamental rights are the other side. That unique is our fundamental rights.